I just saw the Barbie movie. Is it any good? How many butter pumps will it get? Let's find out.
My baby likes butter.
Hello, my beautiful butter babies. So let's get into this Barbie movie. This movie surprised me with how good it actually was. Of course, with Greta Gerwig at the helm, both as director and co-writer, it really would have been hard-pressed to be a bad movie. But what made this movie stand out was the unconventionality of it all. This movie was subversive. It was satirical. It upended a lot of my expectations. So much so, in fact, I was kept guessing throughout this entire movie, but in the very best of ways. This movie dives into the deep end of the phrase, you think you know, but you don't. As I said, this movie is subversive. The promotional part of this movie has been geared to both kids and adults. But when you go through this movie, it's very much an adult movie. Or I should say, adults have plenty in this movie to keep them entertained and thinking at the same time. A lot of the subversiveness of this movie comes from quietly sliding in adult themes into a movie about a child's toy. So when adults and kids are laughing at the same jokes, kids are laughing because the jokes are actually really funny, but the adults are laughing because the subtext of a lot of the humor in this movie is decidedly adult. Think classic Pee-wee's Playhouse or classic SpongeBob. Both are kids shows, but adults enjoyed them too because there were more than a few things in them both that were written specifically with adults in mind. The other reason why this movie is so sneaky and subversive and smart is it takes a literal movie about a literal child's toy and says something meaningful. A few meaningful things, actually. One or two of the points it was trying to make were written especially for children to understand. A couple of more were written with adults in mind, and one or two of these things it was trying to say were meant for everyone, regardless of your age. That the film was able to convey all of those messages without losing focus or without seeming preachy or woke, whatever the fuck that word means anymore. That it avoided all of that really is a testament to the amazing writing in this script. Another thing I really appreciated about this movie is the diversity of the people playing all the Barbies and Kens. Every race and ethnicity is respectfully representative. There are differently abled Barbies in this movie. In fact, one Barbie that's in a wheelchair is prominently featured in a dance routine the Barbies and Kens perform at a house party. A trans woman plays one of the Barbies. The doctor, I think. You will find one or two non-binary people amongst the Kens. The thing that makes all of that wonderful is that although many different people are represented, the movie takes up zero time virtue signaling. Everyone being respectively representative is written and directed in a way that does not say, look at us, look at us, look at how progressive and woke we are. Seriously, white people, stop using that word. You've made it meaningless. Barbie Land being diverse and inclusive of all types of people is just a point of fact. Think of it like the Barbie version of Grey's Anatomy. Shonda Rhimes has made it a point to cast that show in a way that realistically reflects what the world actually looks like. Same with Barbie Land. It's not virtue signaling by being inclusive and diverse. It just correctly reflects the very diverse world we actually live in. Another thing I really liked about this movie, Can you tell I really enjoyed it? It isn't afraid to make fun of itself, nor is it afraid to skewer itself. In a couple of sections, this movie literally roasts the hell out of Mattel, which is the parent company of Barbie. It also pulls zero punches when it makes fun of Warner Brothers Discovery, which is the studio that made this film. Zack Snyder, of all people, even catches a couple of strays. There is a joke about the Snyder cult that made me laugh probably a little too loud. Hell, even Barbie herself gets raked over the coals a time or two. They make fun of, albeit in a very respectful way, a lot of the discontinued dolls in the Barbie universe. Even the creator of Barbie herself, Ruth Handler, doesn't get away unscathed. Apparently, and I didn't know this going into the movie, but apparently the real Ruth Handler got into a little bit of trouble for tax evasion during her lifetime. The movie throws in a couple of tax evasion jokes at her expense. What's interesting about all that is at any step along the way, somebody at Mattel or Warner Brothers Discovery could have dug in their heels and said no. And in fact, Greta mentions that on a couple of things, they actually did get just a little bit of pushback from either the studio or Mattel. But it wasn't so much that it became a knockdown, drag-out fight between anyone, which means level heads prevailed and allowed the unbridled roasting at their own expense to happen in this movie. And as we all know, level heads persisting is not something studios or executives in any industry really are known for. Companies and studios are very reactionary by nature. We all remember what happened when Batman vs. Superman underperformed at the box office. Speaking of the Snyder cult. So that Greta was able to say, you know what, girl, calm down. It'll be fine. And they actually did is either a testament to her or a testament to the very rare to be almost fucking extinct type of executives that stay out of it and actually allow the people they hired to make the movie do their damn jobs. So let's get into a little bit of the mythos of this movie. Barbie Land is a real place where all the Barbies, Kens, and all their discontinued doll compatriots live in happiness and in peace, damn it. The landscape and buildings are all decidedly pink. And there are a lot of Barbies present. In every facet and in every role of life, Barbie is represented, and the Barbies are in control of Barbie Land. And then there's Ken. Ken is just Ken. Much like the Barbies of Barbie Land, there are a ton of different Kens, but the Kens of Barbie Land are there for one purpose and one purpose only: to be in service to Barbie. This is a major plot point that's threaded throughout this film. All the Barbies in Barbie Land are connected to a real-life person in the real world. Because of that, if things start falling apart for the owner, things start falling apart for their Barbie in Barbie Land. Very early on in the movie, things start to hilariously fall apart for stereotypical Barbie in Barbie Land. She goes to see Weird Barbie, played by the always delicious and always delightful Kate McKinnon, more on her in a minute, to figure out what's going on. Weird Barbie tells her that if she wants to get her life back, she must go to the real world, find her owner, and bring hope and joy back to her. Once that's done, everything will go back to normal for stereotypical Barbie. So stereotypical Barbie and a stowaway Ken, played expertly here by Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, find their way to the real world. Now, it's assumed in Barbie land that because Barbies are represented in all walks of life in their world, and Barbies are supposed to be a reflection of what's happening in the real world, equality has been achieved in the real world. What they discover instead is that the real world is much different than Barbie land. In the real world, men are still the dominant gender, and women haven't achieved the equity Barbies thought they did because of Barbie's existence. This confuses and frustrates Barbie, but Ken, suddenly being the dominant gender, is having the time of his life in the real world. So much so that he quickly doubles back to Barbie land and tells all the other Kens what he saw. Not only that, but they somehow convince all the other Barbies to hand over control of Barbie land over to the Kens. Back in the real world, Barbie finds her owner, Gloria, played by America Ferrera, America Ferrera, let's get that shit right, because she's brilliant in this movie. There are a lot of hijinks and shenanigans, all of which are hilarious, but none of which I will divulge in this review. A lot of healing takes place between Barbie, Gloria, and the owner's daughter, Sasha. In the midst of all this, Barbie's existence in the real world comes to the attention of the CEO of Mattel, who here is played by Will Ferrell. So while Barbie is trying to reconnect with Gloria, while Gloria is trying to reconnect with her daughter Sasha, all three of them are being chased through the streets of downtown Los Angeles and the boardwalks of Santa Monica by Will Ferrell and all of his executives / henchmen. Barbie, Gloria, and Sasha eventually make it back to Barbie Land, or as Ken has renamed it, Kingdom. All the Barbies, save for a select few of the discontinued ones, and Alan, for some reason, have been put under some sort of spell by the Kens, and the roles in Barbie Land, Kingdom, have been switched. I want to pause here and talk about cisgender straight men for just a minute. As I said in my fresh out of the theater reaction, link somewhere up in here, this movie might be a hard sell for that segment of the population. Much like in the real world, the Kens are treated as an afterthought in Barbie land. It's all about Barbie. The movie itself is very self-aware about that particular problem and mentions it a couple of times, and honestly, as well it should be. In the real world, this is a doll that's made for little girls. It's about women and all the many wonderful things they can be and accomplish in life. That is what this particular doll is all about. Ken is there, of course, but it's not about him. And quite frankly, it never has been. And because of all that, I can see how cisgender straight men might have a hard time sitting through this movie. Yes, the Kens in this movie, by the end, are treated fairly. But it takes until the end of the movie for it to get there. Ken and Barbie have this long conversation at the end of the movie where Ken finally lets out all of his frustration about being just Ken, or the and Ken in Barbie and Ken. He also finally tells her that he's in love with her, a feeling she just isn't interested in reciprocating. Instead, she apologizes. She apologizes for treating him like an afterthought. She apologizes for taking him for granted and for not thinking of his feelings. She tells him straight out that she's not in love with him, but from there she pivots and she encourages him to learn how to love himself, to find out who he is without her, and figure out just who the hell Ken is and lean into that. By the time the credits roll, the Barbies have taken back control of Barbie Land, but it is strongly hinted that all the Kens in Barbie Land, including Alan, will be treated in a much more fair and equitable manner. Side note, it's revealed in this movie that all the members of NSYNC are actually Allens that have escaped to the real world. Do with that information as you will. Not only that, but it is implied that all the Kens will start their own individual and specific journeys of self-discovery and not be an accessory or afterthought to all the Barbies. Gloria and Sasha reconnect, and Barbie has an existential crisis that sends her off to discover who she really is in the real world as a human. So let's talk about the acting. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as stereotypical Barbie and Ken are so perfectly cast in these roles. Ryan especially, he steals every scene he's in. He's hilarious in the role. There's a longing and desperation in his performance as well, because he truly does not know who he is outside of Barbie. He deftly maneuvers back and forth between comedy and pathos and never takes you out of the movie in either extreme. He may be stereotypical Ken, but he's not a two-dimensional caricature. Margot Robbie is such a good actress. Her own journey into who she wants to become as Barbie is fascinating to watch, and she takes us along for the ride. Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie. Weird Barbie is the Barbie, you know the Barbie, that kids play with just a little bit too hard. They cut their hair in angles and they mark their faces up with markers and make them do splits and then discard them. They're not a branded Barbie, but we all know a Barbie a kid has played with and eventually broken. Maybe you have even created a weird Barbie of your own during your time playing with Barbies. Kate McKinnon is the perfect person to play this role. She's wacky, weird, and wonderful. Just as Kate McKinnon, she's deliciously delightful. So putting her in the role of Weird Barbie was, I mean, honestly, literally a no-brainer. Of course she's Weird Barbie. Who else would she be in this movie? She's absolutely the best. I love her. America Ferrera. I said that again. I'm gonna get this bitch's name right because she deserves it. America Ferrera. Thank you. As Gloria. America has an amazing monologue at the beginning of the third act about all the pressures of being a woman. It felt like Greta was getting all of her frustrations down in this monologue, and America delivers in spades. To see her go through this monologue and talk about how difficult womanhood can be, you can see all of the emotions on her face: anger, frustration, hopelessness, and hopefulness. It was all wrapped up in this single beautiful monologue. It is just incredible to watch, and so is America. Issa Rae, honey, is having one hell of a year. She's producing rap shit. She's in the new Spider-Man movie as Spider-Woman. And now in Barbie, baby, she plays the president. I mean, give this bitch all of the flowers. She is working, honey. I absolutely live for her. And she makes a perfect Barbie Land president. And I think she is, well, I know she is the only Barbie in this movie to drop an F-bomb, and it's delicious and brilliant and hysterical. So Issa Rae, baby, you keep on thriving. You're the best. Finally, let's briefly talk about Will Ferrell's role. Really quickly, he was the weakest in the lineup. He was cringy as a Mattel CEO, and maybe that's what Greta wanted, and if so, he actually delivers that. He's funny, to be sure, but in a cringy kind of a way. His character was the only character in the movie that I thought could have been played by anyone. It was one of those plug-and-play characters. To his credit, though, Will, I believe, with absolutely no proof, took that thankless role and made it his own. But even with that, I felt like how he made it his own didn't quite stick the landing. What can you do? Now, there's been a lot of Oscar buzz surrounding this movie. I would say the buzz surrounding the script, set design, and costumes are all definitely warranted. I think a directing nom for Greta needs to happen. Maybe a supporting actor nom for Gosling, but that might be a stretch. Yes, he was one of the best parts of this movie. Oscar best, though? We'll see. Maybe, since we're talking Oscars, maybe even a Best Original Song nom for Dua Lipa for Dance the Night, or for Billie Eilish for What Was I Made For? So yeah, Barbie is legitimately in the mix for nominations, not only for Oscars, but for other awards at the end of this year and at the beginning of next year, and all of them are well deserved. So, how many butter pumps am I gonna give Barbie? 5. That's right, 5 butter pumps. This film is everything. Please go see this movie. So now I turn it over to you, my beautiful butter babies. Have you seen Barbie? If so, what did you think? How many butter pumps would you give it? Sound off in the comment section below. I want to hear all about it. Thank you so very much for watching, commenting, and subscribing. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.